Hey everyone, welcome back to Rethink Reviews on the TYT network. So now we have a segment that hopefully we'll be ending all of our shows with. It's a segment called Movies That Matter. Yes, there is also no graphic or animation for this either, yet. The idea behind this segment is sort of the idea of why I started this thing called Rethink Reviews several years ago, which is my belief that a lot of films are educational and in that sense political. And more than political, since something that film does that other mediums don't seem to do as well is that they get you to empathize with people, because you follow the main character, you get in their shoes, and you see the way that they see life and the way that they experience life and the circumstances that surround it. And because of this empathy, to me, it means that a lot of films are not just political, but inherently progressive. The thing about progressives is I think that the core belief that they have that informs a lot of their political beliefs is empathy, which is the idea of trying to understand what someone else is going through who is not you. I think a lot of our prejudices in the world and a lot of the way that we see the world is because of our somewhat narrow worldview. We don't understand why someone would want this or why someone is asking for this. And so then we just kind of shut it out. We go with what's comfortable, which is the world that we know. When you're able to empathize with other people and see the way that they see the world, in the end, I think that's going to change things for how you see the world and how you think that the world should be going forward. By contrast, I think that Republican ideology is very much based on the idea that you shouldn't think about how anyone thinks. How you think is the only thing that matters, and what happens to other people doesn't matter. We can live sort of in our own kind of fortresses, both physically and mentally, without having to care about what's happening to anyone else around us. That is not a realistic way to look at the world, because we live in a society and we live in a country, and we should think that we have some sort of common values. We also can't think that the lives of other people don't affect us. I think that, in my mind, is a childish way of looking at the world. And last time I talked about the example of gay marriage. And another example is the foreclosure crisis. I remember hearing this a lot from Republicans, like, well, I work really hard to pay my mortgage on time. Why should I pay for someone who wasn't smart enough to get a house they could afford or didn't have a good job and could afford their house payments? Well, it's like a lot of Republican thinking, where it makes sense if you think about it for like 2 seconds and then not anymore after that. But if you think about it, why should the government help people not have their houses foreclosed upon? Well, look at it this way. Say you live in a house, and you're paying off your bills and you're paying your mortgage, so you're doing fine. Your neighbor is getting their house foreclosed on. Now, you could say, well, why should I care about them? They screwed up, they couldn't pay for their house, their own fault, they pay the consequences. Well, one, kind of a dickhead move, they're your neighbor, right? I mean, you wouldn't want something terrible like that to happen to a friend, one thing. Second of all, if the house next to you gets foreclosed on, your house plummets in value, probably cut in half. Also, what happens to the neighborhood? All the houses for a radius of several houses in a circle, all those house prices go down. Then you lose equity in your house. What if it means that if people were pegging future purchases or sending their kid to college on the value of their homes, all of a sudden that home value is gone. So you can't live in an island. If your neighbor gets foreclosed on, it's going to hurt you as much as you just want to think, oh, well, that's just kind of their problem. Whereas the way progressives look at the world is they can say, well, you know what, if that was me, I wouldn't want that to happen to me. If that was happening to my sister or brother or mother, I wouldn't want that to happen to me, whether it's an issue of immigration, whether it's an issue of unfair sentencing for smoking weed, whatever it is, whether it's gay marriage. Just trying to think, well, geez, if I was in that position, it doesn't seem fair that would happen. And when you look at Republicans, there's so many issues where it seems like they really can't wrap their brains around it unless it happens to them. I mean, really, do you think that Dick Cheney would be coming out saying that gay people deserve equal rights and they deserve to get married if his daughter was not gay? And it would have to be his daughter. If it was his nephew or niece, probably not enough. He'd probably say, oh, go screw them, it doesn't matter. Look at Nancy Reagan supporting stem cell research. Do you think she would have supported stem cell research if it hadn't been that her husband maybe could have benefited from some because of his Alzheimer's? I'm going to go out on a limb and say, no, she wouldn't have supported it. I think that Republicans are like that for a whole host of issues. It has to happen to them for them to understand the importance of it. And a lot of times by then, it's too late. If you're against gay marriage and you get it put in the Constitution that gay marriage will not be allowed, and then you find out that your best friend is gay, then how would you feel? Pretty stupid, wouldn't you? I hope so.